And on today's show, The Clarity of Purpose, part 2 of this week's series on the advisor's pathway to freedom, with Charter Life underwriter and creator of the Cotton Systems, Wayne Cotton. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician in Innsmouth. Let's get down to business. Welcome to the show, Wayne.
Thank you, Steve.
Wayne, I tell you what, I was a little thrilled yesterday because when people see people like you speak, they go, well, that's a motivational speaker, this guy's a life coach. No, this is a person who's produced at the top of the table production, huge numbers. And so that's why people should listen to you. You talk about this thing, we're talking about clarity of purpose. Before we get into it, what's this big circle, little circle thing that you talk about all the time?
One of the main platform talks I gave at the MDRT, Steve, is called the Freedom to Grow. And I talked about the two circles. And the one circle is where the business is the big circle, your life is a small circle. In other words, we get into the business and the business gets into us, and next thing you know, the business is our life as opposed to our life being our life. And in that stage, it's really difficult because your head is totally, completely wrapped up in the business. But that's not proper. That's not the way it's supposed to work. Your life is the big circle. The business is a small circle. The key is to figure out how to make that small circle work properly so that the big circle works best. And so you can focus on faith and family and fitness and friends and all the things that you want to do, fun. That's what life is about. So the business has to work properly for the big circle to work properly. And it doesn't have to take forever. It doesn't have to be a 10-year project or a 5-year project. I mean, just with some tweaking and adjusting and key principles, people can get there very quickly.
Do people know what they want, though? When you talk like this and you're saying, hey, listen, big circle, little circle, do they actually know what they're looking for?
Well, lots of times, I mean, we all say we know what we want, right? But then we're stuck in this stage of overwhelm and overworked and overloaded, and we get all this stuff going. I often talk about ADD, advisor distraction and diversion. There's so many things coming at us all the time that we're just this constant flow in our heads, and there's no ability to really think clearly. So the bottom line is what we need to do is figure out how do we get our purpose clear? Because these 5 principles that I'll focus on, the purpose is huge. If you got clarity of purpose, then everything else follows behind that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And when you're talking about, but before I can get to that place, I mean, you talk about, in one of my notes here, I saw this thing you said, extreme workaholics. They have 8 stress-related problems.
Well, no, that's me.
Oh, just 8.
That's me.
Those are yours.
Me. Oh, yeah.
But are your pathologies our pathologies?
I'm not sure, but here's the thing. I was an extreme workaholic. Up in the morning before my kids were awake, home at night after my kids were asleep, down in the office till 2 or 3 on Saturday afternoon, back in there again Sunday night, winding up this mental machine, Wayne Cotton workaholic, do it all over again. I went 7 years without taking vacation, took 10 days off, went another 3 years before I took another one. I ended up with 8 stress-related medical problems. It was ridiculous. It was totally, completely ridiculous. I had 11 people running around behind me, fancy office space downtown. Everything looked great. I was president of the local association. I was a life member of MDRT, but on the inside, I was a mess. And when the stress-related medical problems caught up to me, I couldn't keep pushing. I couldn't keep driving the same way. And then everything started to unravel. And it didn't just implode, it exploded. I ended up with 7 legal judgments against me for crying out loud. I'm president of the association. And it was a horrible mess. I ended up losing my home and investments in vehicles and office space and equipment and furniture and staff. Everything disappeared. And here I am standing there at 12 years in the business going, what just happened, right? And so going through that phase is what I think gives me the ability to even talk about what happens with advisors who get locked into it too deep. Clarity of purpose helps people understand what they really want. And hard work isn't it. It's smart work.
Well, this is a huge issue for you just to be a little bit vulnerable on camera with us. You're talking us through your own failures, and I'm sure that so many people watching, listening, were advisors that have been in this business a little while, that are really trying to be peak performers, are seeing that, hey, I might be falling into this trap he's talking about, or I'm living it right now.
A lot of people are. It's huge. I mean, when I speak to an audience, it's amazing the number of people that came up to me afterwards who, I gave a presentation at the top of the table focus group at MDRT last year. And many of the top of the table members said, not many, I don't know what the number is, it's whatever, a dozen people that contacted me said, this is the best presentation I've ever heard. And it was about the fundamentals. It wasn't about, expanding your business and getting bigger and better all the time. I believe in that, and I believe that it's important to do that. But you got to do it the right way. That's the key.
Well, you talked about, I'm looking for the ability to grow without having these problems. And I'm also looking to go, instead of working harder, I want to work smarter. And what's the segue? Once a person wakes up to this, like let's say your 12 people that attended, they came up to you personally. When a person comes up to you personally that says they relate to it, they usually are ready to do something about it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they've been working hard. There's a different way of working smarter. How long does it take, once you figure that out, how long does it take you to segue over that and start working smarter?
I'll tell you what happened with me. That's the simplest answer. Here I am, a total mess in my life. And I've always been a dreamer and a dawdler. And so one day I decided I'm going to figure out what the model year would look like. If I could live the perfect year, what would that look like? And after living through this hellish period of time, I'm like, okay, what could my life look like? What would I want it to look like? And I thought this might be 5 or 7 years down the road, but I spent the time to map it out. And I color-coded a calendar. This is in 1981. I color-coded a calendar and I built my first model year. Here's what my model year should look like. And when I laid that out, I got really excited about it because what I laid out was I wanted a long weekend every single weekend and 3 2-week vacations in the year. Now, for a guy who's like so far underwater, 7 legal judgments against me, and I'm saying I want 180 days off, that sounded like total and utter nonsense to anybody else but in my head, thinking I could do that someday. What happened was I did it the next year. I went straight from extreme workaholism to taking 180 days off. And that was an eye-opener for me because all of a sudden my stress, all that stuff started to go down. Now, of course, the first reaction is, well, how'd you make any money? Here's the reality. I doubled my highest year of revenue ever and took 180 days off.
Wow. When we come back from the break, I want to talk about this color, the magic of your color-coded time calendar, because this is kind of was your kind of like, what can I say, your battle plan.
Absolutely.
Right after the break. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to the second segment. We're with Wayne Cotton. And Wayne, we're talking about the magic of color-coded time calendar. And I'm thinking to myself, does it really matter? And you say, it does.
Here's the thing. When you're working really hard, you need to block time. You need to think about something important. That is that time off drives time on. You need to take breaks. You need to walk away. You need to come back refreshed and ready to go to work. You do so much better when you do that. And so the whole concept here is that time off drives time on. You couldn't have convinced me of that. I was raised on the farm. I know what hard work is. It's the order of the day, right? But hard work didn't get me there. I mean, I worked extraordinarily hard and it didn't work. So when I got into my first color-coded calendar, I mean, it was just toying and fiddling, built my model year, right? And then I decided to make that my current year, and I did it, and you heard what happened. So the concept here is to take a single sheet of paper, a calendar, and to color-code it in the terms that are important to you. So let me describe the colors. First of all, blue stands for blue sky. Blue sky is strategy, planning. It's working on the business, on your life, not in it. So blue sky, there needs to be some blue sky time at the beginning of each quarter. So at the beginning of each quarter, there's some blue sky time to set this tone for the quarter. At my peak, with 26 staff members, 2 companies, a lot of things on the go, I took 5 days every quarter for blue sky time. 5 days. The first day by myself to think about what I wanted to accomplish. The second day was about my personal life. So I talked to my dad, my kids, and my spouse. We make plans of what we're going to do throughout the quarter for the whole 90-day period of time. And then the third day was into team. And the first day we'd focus on what did we accomplish in the last 90 days. And we'd make a list of all that and celebrate, because that's important. But it also brought up a number of things that still needed to be done. We'll talk about that when we get into the performance factor, about what happens every 90 days. But the calendar here, blue sky, is working on the business, on your life. And you'll see some other blue sky days in a calendar here as well, where maybe somebody wants to have 1 day a month that's in blue sky as well, just so I can kind of catch up and make sure they're on track and whatever. But this is about clarity of purpose, right? Once you know what you want, you can say no to what you don't want. So you got to have clarity here at the front end. Taking time off, you know, in saving money, you got to take it off the top, not the bottom, right? I mean, if you try and save money with what's left over, there's nothing left over. Time is the same way. You have to block time at the beginning of a period of time, not at the end, because there's nothing left over at the end. It all gets used up. So blue sky. Then we go to mellow yellow. So mellow yellow, MY, my time, is time off. And that's time to walk away, to get away from the business, to enjoy yourself, And some of those will be long things. For example, in this one, it shows a motorcycle trip for 10 days. Now, this is fairly close to this is more of an advanced version of a calendar. Like a younger advisor might have a long weekend every single weekend and 3 2-week vacations in the year. That might be the model that person uses. At one stage with the major business ventures I was involved in, I took 2 weeks off in the middle of each quarter and 1 at the end. So, your patterns change over a period of time. My pattern now is I want 9 long weekends in my model year, 9 long weekends a year, and 9 9-day holidays. So that's a weekend and a week in the middle, right? And so when you look at something like this, you plan it out for the year. Now, you'll never be perfect. I mean, there'll be adjustments and changes, but you do that quarterly. But when you map out the year, this is an example of 180 days off, mellow yellow time, and you see there's a break up here and skiing and snowshoeing up here and so on and so forth. There's different things here of what you might want to do, whatever that happens to be. Maybe you want to go build Habitat Homes for Humanity, like whatever it is that turns your crank, right? So then we've got red tape. That's cleanup and administrivia and education and all those things, right? It's stuff. And so many people get so caught up in stuff that they expand red tape time. We'll keep it down. In this case here, it shows 1 day of red tape, quite a few weeks, not all the weeks, but 1 day of red tape. Cleanup, administrivia, get it over with. Then we have what's left over, and that's green machine. Now I call it what's left over, and it's really true. Because now what you have is only a certain amount of green days. In this calendar here, you see that this person is operating on a 3-day work week for green machine. Now in green machine, you're prospecting, approaching, you're opening cases, defining issues and concerns, you're doing your case preparation, you're closing, bringing new clients into the fold, etc. So green machine actually isn't that many days. So the key is we've got to figure out how do we improve the value of a green day, which is under the next principle. How do you improve the value of a green day so that you can really maximize your performance, do a lot more business, and yet balance it all out in a way like this? Make sense?
Yeah, well, let me stop you here just to make sure we all are making sense.
Yeah.
So really, we wouldn't even go to this calendar, we wouldn't even talk about the construction of this protocol if it didn't have the actual impact that you talked about, which was I went from working harder to working smarter.
Right.
And when an advisor's looking at this, he's going, I want to be a high achiever, and you're saying you're speaking at MDRT, top of the table places with high performers that are going, this is the formula. Because I think that people are stunned that you have so much mellow yellow, blue sky, and you only have 3 days to really do what they call a 7-day week.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important that, as you go down the pathway in the business, you got to work less and accomplish more. And so the whole concept here of managing your time this way, and you only have 1 color per day. It's a theme for a day. You will still do some red tape things on a green day, a few things, you'll do a little bit of blue sky on a green day, but it's a theme for a day. Because if you mix all your colors together, the color you get is brown. You don't want brown days. That's not what you're looking for, right? And so people that want to use this resource, they can go to nobrowndays.com. Boy, when my wife saw we were choosing that website, she said, "You can't do that." I said, "Yeah, we just did." So it's nobrowndays.com, and it's free stuff. It's you'll see some classes there and some examples. This example is there, but you'll learn how to build this color-coded calendar. But listen to the class before you do it, and get the instructions so you really understand why this is so important.
Listen, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just hop out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.